let's get started. We want to welcome everyone to our FinTech Virtual Lunch. This is a masterclass. The theme is really how we can rise above the noise. So a lot of times when it comes to marketing and branding, it's really important to have a strategy. And so our event today is going to focus on what can we do in order to rise above the noise so that our brand, whether we're using video marketing, PR, or strategy, is going to really resonate. I would like to start by just kind of giving an overview of just some basic housekeeping. So we're going to start off with a panel discussion for about 45 minutes. And then afterwards, we're going to open up the breakout rooms so that we have an opportunity to have a one-on-one discussion, obviously with the panel, but also with each other. That's a high point of these events, to really open up the breakout rooms so that we can have an interchange. And really, we think that really resonates as well. So to get started, I want to introduce the panel by way of introduction. Charlene, why don't you get started? Why don't you introduce yourself, your background, and then we'll turn it over to the rest of the panel.
Certainly, Wayne, thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here this afternoon to meet with everyone and to share some wisdom with everyone. Again, my name is Charlene McWilliams. I'm actually an award-winning communications specialist, and I have got more than 3 decades of experience in public relations and journalism. And I specialize in developing messages, helping people develop messages around their strategic communications to markets, developing their messages, developing their thought leadership approaches, training them for media opportunities. And I live in Silver Spring with my daughter and my 2 cats.
Well, welcome, Charlene. Abby, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hello, everyone. I'm Avjit Kolatkar. I'm a computer engineer by education. Did about 22 years of IT engineering, both here in India as well as in the USA. Incidentally, and directly relatable to this particular set of audience here, I've worked with E-Trade Financial, if you're familiar with that company, acquired by as their quality manager for over 4 years. So somewhat relevant experience in terms of the fintech industry. And then after about 22 years of doing IT and related stuff, I switched careers completely, and 10 years ago I started a video production company of my own. And for the last 1 decade or so, I've been helping both individuals as well as corporates do their personal branding with the help of video. So I'm very happy to be here. Thank you, Wayne, for the opportunity, and I look forward to sharing my thoughts with you.
Excellent. Thank you. Paul, why don't you introduce yourself?
Yeah, thanks, Wayne. Great. Glad to be here. Oh, wow. Great panelists all from all these introductions. So my name is Paul Jabadi. I'm a senior marketing executive for more than 15 years experience mostly in financial industry and banking sector. And I have worked with the largest bank and insurance company, US and Canada, including Scotiabank and CIBC, and focusing on marketing strategy, go-to-market strategy, and brand development. Currently, I'm providing advisory service and consulting service to small, medium, large enterprises on those topics. I'm glad to be here to talk to you about our marketing strategy. So it will be a fantastic session. Thanks, Wayne.
Well, welcome everybody. And again, my name is Wayne Brown. I am the managing partner and founder of the Walker Group, and also the founder of the FinTech Virtual Lunch. I'm joined by Jonathan Pina, who handles all marketing and promotions for the Walker Group, including the FinTech Virtual Lunch. So let's get started. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have a few polls, and that we would really appreciate your engagement. The very first poll is, do you have a marketing plan as part of your overall strategy? We'd like you to participate in this poll. It's going to be a yes or a no. So if you could just take a few minutes, we're going to put that poll on the screen and look forward for your response. Okay. Jonathan, why don't you let us know when that poll is complete?
Just wait 30 seconds.
Okay.
That's it. Okay.
Okay. So, great. Jonathan, would you like to share the results?
Absolutely. Here are the results.
Okay, perfect. Paul, would you like to comment on those results?
Well, I was a little surprised on this result. Last time I ran this poll, it was 50-50. Now I see 60% have a marketing strategy and frameworks, which is great. So it makes it easier for us to talk about. But I think the opportunity is for that other 40%. So this session will talk about how you can have an effective marketing planning framework and how you can get there. But this is impressive. I'm glad that 60% already have that in place, so which is great.
Excellent. Let's go to our second poll question. What would you like your marketing efforts to create for you in the short term? So the next 6 to 12 months. Jonathan, why don't you put that poll up? Right? What would you like your marketing efforts to create for you in the short term, in the next 6 to 12 months? These are multiple choices. So why don't you kind of select one option that's in this poll? We'll give you just a couple of seconds in order to do that and think about that. And Jonathan, why don't you let us know when that is complete?
Yeah. Okay, here we are.
Okay. Yes. Charlene, why don't you comment on those results? That's kind of interesting as well.
That is very, very telling, and it's very smart too. It shows that you understand the importance of marketing and how it can affect all of these particular areas, and why it's important to touch on those areas to have a successful campaign, a successful marketing campaign. So very good, everyone, for understanding the importance of that.
Okay. And then we have just one more poll. Why don't you put that up, Jonathan? And that question is, do you have the following basic platforms to promote your marketing strategy? A website, a mobile website, LinkedIn and other social media, or all the above? Why don't you just take a couple of seconds and just kind of fill that out for us?
Okay, perfect. Here are the results.
I think I can guess this one.
There we are.
All the above. Excellent. And Avi, why don't you comment on the results? And why don't you keep that up there for a little bit, Jonathan, if you can. Okay, Avi, you want to comment on those results?
Yeah, absolutely. So it's good to see that everybody's thinking about a website. They're thinking about fewer people were thinking about a mobile website. I can't stress the importance enough, because practically everybody on this earth is on mobile phones. So absolutely right in that when we think about our physical presence, our digital presence is reflected primarily through the website. So it's obviously your company website, it's your LinkedIn profile, it's your company's LinkedIn profile. And depending on what kind of a business you are in, if you're a B2B, for most matters this would suffice. But if you're a B2C kind of a company, then you also need to think about other social platforms like Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and you name it. So that's a call that you need to take depending on as we progress through the session. What is the right strategy for you to follow, and which platforms you absolutely need to be on. One quick reminder is that when you think about websites, the way people look at websites has changed significantly. Mm-hmm. So there were days when websites used to have like tons of information in there. It is important, especially nowadays with the attention spans that are so short. Your website is probably not more than 150 words per page, and maybe 5 or 6 pages at the max. So keep it short, keep it crisp, and most definitely have a mobile friendly website.
No, that's excellent feedback. Thank you. So why don't we get started with our discussion? So when it comes to marketing, one of the very first things that is important is to develop a strategy. Right? You have to have a strategy. You have to have a plan, and then you want to execute against that plan. Paul, why don't you kind of talk with us a little bit about the plan using the RACI framework? Tell us what the RACI framework is, and tell us why that strategy is so important in order to execute a marketing plan that's going to resonate and that's going to be dynamic.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks, Wayne. I think to your point, you always want to have a framework or having a marketing framework that helps you to grow your business. And the value proposition of having a framework is provide that action-oriented approach. So you're not going after so many targets that you don't want to blow your brain on marketing initiatives. So it's all about value proposition and creating that focus on customer-centric activities, and obviously to help you to prioritize your marketing effort. And the reason that you have this is we want to make sure that you have those planning as part of your strategy. And when we talk about the RACI, it's all about creating that prioritization, assigning your framework, and make sure that you have increased your business value and size. That's what all marketing is all about. It's creating sales and revenue at the end. And the idea of the RACI metrics is all about reach, act, convert, and engage. And Jonathan, if you can put that RACI metrics framework on the screen, that would be great, so we can go through it. I'm glad that most of the audience know about they already have that framework. So the idea of the RACI framework, and Jonathan, can you make it a little bit larger so audience can see it? And I always say this framework can be applied to any size of the organization. Doesn't matter if you're a small, medium size, or large enterprise. I find that very useful. And the idea is that you start the first section, which is the planning section. And the planning section is all about defining your goals. I spend a lot of time with my client on this part. We want to make sure that you define your goals and strategy and the channels that you're using. And the idea is that what do you want to get out of your marketing? It's all about creating that value proposition, looking at the opportunity to how do you grow your market. And it doesn't matter and what the channels that you're going to use. Is it going to be, as Abhi mentioned, is it your social media, is it website? What do you want to get and what do you want to get out of it? You might want to increase your brand value proposition. You might increase your awareness, or you want to get your site. So I always say, if you want to start with this funnel, you want to make sure that your planning are defined and your goal and strategy are solid booked. And don't go through other phases if you don't have that in plan. So might as well don't go through the whole marketing concept if you don't have that. So, and the idea is that you want to make sure that once you have defined your goals, you reach out to the second section, which I call the reach on the funnel, which is a reach section. And the idea is that you want to publish and promote your content and make sure that people can see you. And that's where your network and influencer comes in. And I actually put the key measurements in here. And I think that's the most important part, is to draw visitors to your website. You want to go what value you get. And the most important one is the social media. You want to make sure that you have your fan or followers in there. And I always say the reaching part is the most important part, but it's hard to get. But once you have that, you actually win half of the battle, which I call planning and reaching funnel, which will be the most important part. And once you have that, the rest is easy. I mean, you look at, now you reach out to your customer. Now you go to what I call the act part, which is all about engaging and make sure you have the interaction and you have the content, which makes sense. And I always say, any consulting I do is I talk about the content is the king, right? You want to make sure your content resonate to the people. You have your collaterals, and it's all about creating those leads. That's where the marketing is all about, creating lead and those converting to theirs. So you're looking at the customer journeys. Make sure you have a clear customer journey in your decision-making process, and you make it inspirable and make it easier for customer to find you and create those leads. And people are share or comment your likes on your social media. So I just want to stop a little bit now. If anybody has any questions, Wayne, in the chat, we can address it or move on to there.
I'm looking in the chat and I don't see any. So if anybody wants to raise their hand or want to ask a question before we move forward.
I think it was very clear. So nobody has any questions. So we will continue.
And one of the things interesting though, Paul, I was wondering why is it called the RACI marketing planning framework? And I can see reach, act, convert, and engage. So yes. That's obviously the acronyms. Do you want to talk at some point? I mean, obviously you used this in the past. Can you kind of talk about, is it easy to use? Have you had any complications with those that are using this framework? Because it looks very clear and concise, but still just kind of saying any feedback that you've had with those in your practice that as you walk them through this process.
Yeah, I think great point. I find it very simple to use once you explain what it's all about. And I always say, it's always start with planning. Planning is the top part of it. I mean, and it gets complicated if you don't have the right planning. And I've seen so many people blow their brain on the marketing. But when we go back, we look at their planning and say, what do you want to get out of it? They really don't have really done that. So I always say it's all about starting on the top, make sure your planning is right. And once you have that, like it's actually very straight framework. And this has actually been used by many organizations, depends on the size. So if you're a fintech or small insurtech or even mid-size, I mean, that will be easier to use. But I always say is help you to prioritize your tactics. And it's all about customers, right? You're trying to create that customer journey and make sure that you have the action-oriented approach. And I always say the planning part is a major part. So, and I mentioned in my comment, like if you don't get the planning right, might as well go through the whole
Right.
thing, right?
Yeah. No, Paul, that's excellent. There's a question from Lillian. Hi, Paul. What are the most effective social medias that have the most ROI for companies?
I'm glad that Lillian asked this, and I know Lillian for a while, so I know why she was going after this one. Actually, when we look at that, I actually look at the survey about what the top marketing trends are, and the social media, LinkedIn came in quite a bit on the top. Everybody thought, and the other trend, which Abhijit we're going to talk about, is the video marketing. I've seen that quite a bit. It has been actually been amazing how much return on investment that you get. But I warn you, some of those social medias are expensive, right? So you need to understand your ROI. I'm all about return on investment and what you get out of it. And you have to make sure that you do it. And I see a lot of people blow their brain on Instagram and Facebook, but doesn't work on their industry. So you got to be careful on what you're spending. And you know what? I'm glad Lillian asked this question. Other thing, I look at the trend in the industry. I just look at the surveys of top marketing trends for past year was actually the top trend was improving your website. So getting all away from the web, social media, look at your website, and email marketing. People are forgetting about that, but email marketing still works. Is actually has the highest return on investment compared to social media. But then the social media, I always say LinkedIn is number one, and then you go up on Instagram, Facebook, and also the new concept that we talk about, video marketing, which we'll cover quite a bit.
Yes. And Paul, there's another question from Laura. Can you provide a story of a company that has used your RACI framework?
Yeah, so actually, I'm glad you think that. I was actually working with one of the fintech up in here in Toronto, and they were looking to decrease their brand value proposition. What we did was looking at the whole planning cycle, looking at the customer journey. And what they did is looking at the opportunity, how to build that brand because they were new to the market. So, and the way we did that was looking at their customers, what their product was, and also looking at the opportunity, how to grow the market share. And the differentiation was that we focus on product value proposition versus what the customer wants. So we try to reach that to that point. And it took a while to do this, but I mean, once we had that, we actually had grow by 20%. And the idea was they identify where the ideal customer is. They develop that customer journey. And as part of this, I think that's where the word act part comes in, because it's defining your clear customer content and make sure it's relevant.
No, thank you for that. I appreciate that. Here's another question. How important is the understanding and acceptance of your marketing plan to the parts of the organization that support your product or service?
Yeah, absolutely. We always have this conflict. Sales says, oh, you don't give me enough leads. And marketing says, yeah, I generate great leads, but you don't know how to execute it. I think if you need to socialize this quite a bit, especially in a larger or enterprise or mid-sized organization, I call it the socializing is number one thing. So any marketing plan that you do, you need to make sure that sales or even products are involved. And with my past experience, we had to do this. So anything that you do, you have to make sure they're on board, they support you, because at the end of the day, you actually generate those leads for sales, right? And if they think, oh, it's not, they're not on board. So you want to make sure your vision is clear, your planning is clear, and also you need to show result. And that's where the convert part comes in, which is all about key measurement and revenue and profit. So if you have a right measurement and show them, hey, for example, we created 200 leads, you got 50% return on investment, and revenue on average order value was that high when we did this marketing program, you will get sales on board, because sales love to sell products. I don't care. At the end of the day, it's all about creating that revenue. And obviously, you want to partner with them quite a bit. And I say it in a larger or mid-sized organization, make sure that everybody is on board from product side. And that's what we do quite a bit, to work with the client on that side to make sure that everybody has that same page and the same mentality. And hopefully that answers your question. So, I mean, I'd be glad to talk about this later on.
Yeah.
And that's why it's important to have them all involved in the planning process. Each portion of the company have a representative and know how the plan will affect their business, their activity.
That's
great.
We're going to take a final question from this section. Recently, I've read and seen that some people are using certain tricks and formatting to create especially engaging content for LinkedIn posts. Where's the best source for do's and don'ts and best current practices on an updated basis for LinkedIn users? And that could be for anyone on the panel. Any thoughts?
Yeah, Abhijit, you want to jump on this on LinkedIn one, because I know you're specialized on that one, so I'll pass it on to you.
So I think now that practically everybody has discovered ChatGPT, it's becoming
I was going to say.
And in fact, the whole point of our discussion tonight is, there's certainly a lot of noise out there, and how do you differentiate yourself and compete with the other noisemakers? There's no easy and quick answer to this. What I would suggest is, as we go deeper into our session, is to really look at video as one of the important tools for us to use. So it's not only about the title of your post, it's not only about the first few sentences that you use on LinkedIn. It is also the real content that goes within. And in a few minutes, I'll be talking about really the importance of video to set yourself apart from the rest of the noise.
Excellent. Paul, before we move on to Abby, do you have any thoughts that you want to, by way of concluding?
Yeah, so I mean, the two parts on this, which we didn't cover, I just want to do it quickly. The conversion part, which is the easy part that we talk about converting. And the last part is my favorite part, which is the engagement part. That's all about creating advocacy, make sure that people are repeating your purchase, they love you on the social media, you create that thrill. And the most important part of this, which actually doesn't show in this slide, is all about re-automating and redoing it again. This is an art. It's not a technology way of doing it. So you want to make sure that you re-automate, you go through your process and repeat the whole thing over and over again until you get it right. And that's where this become powerful, because it will give you a great perspective on your marketing planning framework. And, it helps you to grow your business. That's what it is. And I believe that this is actually a pretty straightforward framework if you execute it. But as Charlie mentioned, it's all about planning. We talk about this and make sure you get it right and go through the step. And just the beauty of this, you can re-automate and retry it and make sure until you get it right. So it's not, it's easy to do, right? Which is, and I've been using it quite a bit. So, and I'd be happy to answer any question in the breakout room if anybody has any more questions.
Right, and we want to make this available, this chart, to anybody who wants it, and also that your background, your contact information is also in the chat, and your LinkedIn contact is there as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
So let's move on. We're going to talk now about video marketing. I think we've kind of talked a little bit about that up to this point. So we're going to start with a poll. Jonathan, can you put that poll up? Really wants to talk about the type of marketing that your organization is using. Okay. Are you currently using other types of marketing for your organization? This is multiple choice. So why don't you just pick which one is your organization using? And we'll give that a couple of seconds, and then we'll turn our discussion to Abby, who's going to provide an overview of video marketing and the real value proposition, and then probably comment on the results of the poll. I'm surprised that's an interesting result. All of these polls have been interesting results, but it's all good. It's all good. So Abby, why don't you talk us through, obviously, if you could provide an overview of what you do, how you've seen video marketing, and maybe tying that back into with some of the needs that all companies are doing to promote themselves.
Yeah, and thank you, Wayne. And one of the, I was really surprised happily to see that a lot of people are actively using video marketing. So it's almost like I'll be not really preaching, but talking to the choir, so to say. So let's take a step back and think about, why video? And that too, again, is a no-brainer. I think ever since COVID, the way that we consume information and the way that we are getting entertained, has completely switched over more or less to video, right? I mean, just think of if you are looking for some information. Usually earlier it used to be Google, you go to the browser, type in your query and look through like hundreds of thousands of results and so on. But now the go-to place is really become YouTube. So a lot of people are consuming information through videos, right? And it makes total sense for us to, if you are trying to reach out to people, then video is probably the only most important medium that you should think about. And one of the reasons for that is, I just did a quick search on the general statistics. People are spending about 7 hours every day staring at their screens, probably longer. Out of those, almost 3 hours are being spent watching videos. Now that to me was a little bit of a surprise. So, if people are spending 3 hours watching videos, mind you that your potential customer is one of those statistics. They are also consuming information through videos. So if they are consuming, you better be there to supply it, right? And that, I think, is a reason enough for us to think of video as an important part of our marketing strategy, right? What are people actually doing when they're watching video? They're either getting entertained, Netflix binge watching, all this mindless scrolling of reels and stuff like that. But at the same time, people are also using videos to get educated. So education becomes one of the important mediums when what people are watching, right? And this medium is going to continue to grow as the new millenniums and the Gen Z join the workforce, and they become the key decision makers. So we all have to look at video as a serious medium for us to communicate. So now when we think of video, what kind of video should be the starting point? Assuming anyone from a small company to a large company, and this is my advice when I talk to all of my clients, is at a bare minimum, consider having a company profile video, right? So company profile video is a video which is like 3 or 4 minutes in duration, not more than that. Because, again, think of the attention span of people who are going to be watching these videos. This 3-4 minute video is going to consist of what exactly is the problem that you're solving, right? 1 or 2 sentences. Define what the problem's domain you're in. Talk about how you are solving that problem in an innovative way, assuming, if you're an entrepreneur, you have an innovative solution to that problem, right? Other 2 important things that necessarily go as part of this video include testimonials. Get at least 1 or 2 customers to talk about how their experiences working with you have been. Make it part of the company profile video. And the next important thing is, if you are a funded company, also put in a testimonial from at least 1 or 2 of your investors. Now, these are people who believe in your vision. These are people who, are actually putting their money where their mouth is. And it is important for you to showcase this as part of your company profile video. Now, where and how do you use this company profile video? Let's say you go out and create this company profile video. I have seen in the poll results, people are using email as marketing campaign. You're going to events, you're doing things. Now, remember, when you go to an event, you meet literally 100 people, right? You collect visiting cards from there, you get their contact information and so on. What do you do next? You usually follow up with an email, right? So in addition to following up with an email, maybe you send them a LinkedIn Connect request. And when the person accepts that request, you can just request them, hey, here is a video, a 4-minute video. If you can spend 4 minutes looking through what is it that I do, it will leave a significant amount of impact they may or may not be your potential customers, but at least now, and going back to what Paul had put up there, the first part of Metrics is really letting people know what your story is. And if you are able to tell your story in 3 to 4 minutes, if somebody is not able to spend those 4 minutes, it's going to be a very difficult sell for you to begin with. So most definitely invest in a company profile video, a 3-4 minute video with the elements that I just spoke about. The next thing that I think you should think about is, especially if you have a product, definitely create a product video, right? So if you have an app like Zelle, most definitely talk about how to use Zelle, how can it make your life easier, right? Or you could be a service provider, maybe somebody who's helping your customer do the integration with Fast or FedNow or what have you. Present that in the form of a video, and that will also go a long way. Okay. Remember that in most cases, everybody on this group here is mostly dealing with fintech. So in most likelihood, your target audience is either a CTO or a VP of engineering who's responsible for integrating. Maybe you have an API set, or maybe you have some adapters that you have written, and people are looking to integrate those, right? They are your target customers. So the next thing that I think is important is, okay, you've been able to send them this video, they're interested, they understand the solution that you're providing. The next thing that you definitely need to do is to help them build trust with what you are doing, right? Because the next important thing is for you to build trust. Now, how do you build that trust, right? And hopefully before you go out and do this outreach, in order to build trust, the two elements that I spoke about in the company profile video, testimonials from customers, nothing else will build trust more than your customers talking about what an happy experience it has been working with you, right? So have at least 3, 4, 5 customer experience testimonials created, make them available on your website, be ready to send them on. Okay, have that information readily available. The next thing that is going to, again, I spoke about investors. Now, investors are people who are also putting in money into your vision, into what you're doing, right? Two more important things that will help build this trust is your expertise, and how do you demonstrate that expertise to your target audience, right? Your target audience are CTOs and the VPs of engineering and so on. You talk about your vision, you become the thought leader. And I think Charlene is going to talk a lot about branding and personal branding and stuff like that. You have to appear as the thought leader, because people like to deal with people who can bring value to their system, right? Now, how do you establish this thought leadership? And Charlene probably will go into more details in that. But from a video perspective, invest in some sort of a podcast series. And I'm sure you guys have been following what Wayne himself has been putting out there. He has tons of resources, which are video resources, on his BFSI Tech Talks website. When you put out resources like that out there, it establishes your leadership. It establishes that you're willing to share your information. You're willing to share, whatever knowledge that you have. You're willing to share your opinions and views. People want to be connected with people who have opinions, who have views, and who have a vision. So the best way to demonstrate that is to, have some resources. And, in the polls I've seen that, some of you are writing high quality blogs and so on. But like I said earlier, people are consuming videos. So make sure that you're creating good quality podcast videos as well. That will go a long way. Okay. Any questions so far?
Wayne, you're on
Here's
mute.
here's the question.
Wayne, you're on mute.
Yep, here I am. It would be amazing to visualize what you're highlighting through a video. Do you have any great examples to show? That would be fantastic. Thanks.
I
So
what I can do is I can follow through maybe in the breakout session.
Yep, that would be perfect.
Minute, or maybe I can send out the links through a follow-up email or something.
No,
Happy to share.
Yeah, so in the breakout room, that'll be good, and then you can always follow up directly. That'll be perfect.
Sure.
Good. So let's go to Charlene. Charlene, so we're going to talk to you. You're going to provide a quick overview on brand marketing. So I think we need to start with some polls, right? So
Hold
let's
on just a second, Wayne. There was one more quick question, or did you want to just go on to me?
No. What other question is good? Sorry, I can't. Yep. Did I miss another question?
There is one from Roy.
I didn't.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Good.
1 to 2 minute direct sell video call to action.
Action. Yep. Directly to a clickable landing page. What do you think about that, Abhi?
Yeah. So what I prefer is if you've done all this homework, right? People know who you are, people trust you. In most cases, you will probably not need an action video, right? These are good. What I have found is that these kind of videos generally work better when you're going B2C. So when you're at the top of the RACI metrics, especially it works better with consumers where you're reaching out to a huge number of people. And then you can have a quick 30-second kind of a video, and I'll show you and share an example. It could be an app download kind of action, or it could be, hey, call me now and become rich, or what have you. And it depends on what you have to sell. That works when you're not necessarily targeting a specific audience. That's been my experience.
Excellent. Thank you for responding. Charlene, let's go to you. Jonathan, can you put up the poll?
Yes, absolutely.
And the question is, what have your efforts been regarding building your thought leadership presence? This is always a challenge as well as an opportunity. Just take a few seconds and if you can complete this poll. And Jonathan, you will let us know when the polling is complete.
Okay, let's wait 5 seconds.
Okay.
Wow.
Regular activity on LinkedIn. Okay.
Wow, LinkedIn comes up.
Yeah, strongly. Charlene, would you like the next poll to be our final poll? Or you want to comment on this?
Yeah, let me work on this one first. Let me just add some commentary to this one. It's very interesting. I saw that there's one about basically what I'm going to talk about feeds into what Paul was mentioning earlier, the RACI funnel. And we are going to talk a little bit more about earned media as well as purchased media and owned media. So that's primarily what I'm going to talk about. And when you're talking about bylined articles and being interviewed by the media and speaking at conferences, those are all kind of earned. Those are earned unless you pay for it. If you pay to be speak at a conference, it's a paid opportunity. But if someone asks you and you're selected as a participant, that's an earned opportunity. So that's the difference between paid and earned opportunities. And it's so important to keep in mind that when you're doing your LinkedIn post, say for instance, someone has a very interesting post, their post from media outlets on LinkedIn, and that's a great opportunity to show your expertise or your knowledge or your opinion about a particular trend that's going on. And interestingly enough, that can tie you back into that media outlet. If you have an interesting post, they can reach out to you and say, hey, I saw your post, would you be interested in an interview on this topic? So that's a good way of tying in your LinkedIn efforts with your media thought leadership building efforts as well.
Excellent.
And we got another poll coming up,
okay.
But I did want to talk a little bit more about some of the findings from that poll. And Jonathan, it went so fast. I didn't see. I knew the top one was, everyone was doing something on LinkedIn, but the lowest one was people doing things, for articles and interviews and that sort of thing. So we can talk a little bit more about that later on. But this is the next poll question.
Okay, so here's another question. What type of earned media have you been successful in securing? And thank you, Charlene, for helping us and educating us on what is earned media.
Yes.
So thank you. So let's take a couple of seconds rather, and just kind of complete this. This is our last and final poll.
Neither.
Wow.
Well, now. Byline articles, very good. Interviews, both. Neither. That neither one. Okay. So when I mentioned earlier byline articles, and I think people get intimidated when they hear, oh gosh, I got to write something. But you're the expert. You know your industry. You know the trends. You know how it's going to affect your company. You know how it's going to affect the industry. You know how it's going to affect your potential clients. So your potential clients and your existing clients want to hear what you have to say. Paul mentioned earlier, and I believe Abbott did too, when people are working with you, they're not just working with your company, they're working with the people. They want to know who you are as a professional and what your expertise is and how you know this. Why should I work with you? Why should I work with Wayne on Fintech? Well, Wayne has a pedigree on Fintech, and he shows it in his LinkedIn efforts, in the byline articles that he writes, and the comments that he makes on trends. So those are all things that you should do and should implement in your effort to build your thought leadership expertise and your repertoire, as per se, about things that are going on in the industry. It's important to know that if you do not have the time to write something, I know a lot of people these days are kind of they're depending on AI to write blogs and any kind of press releases and that sort of thing. I wouldn't rely on that. I'm not going to say that it's not a good tool to start with, but to give it that personalized touch so that people know who you are and the different angle that you have. Because I tell you, I can definitely determine what is AI and what's from a person. The knowledge is not there in AI. The information is there in AI. The color commentary isn't there in AI. The information is good, but it's not specific to the area that you are an expert in. So when it comes to writing byline articles, and you want to depend on AI, I encourage you not to just depend on it. Use it as a starting point, and just being able to massage it so that it has your tone and it has the information and the perspective that you are most known for, or you want to be known for in the industry. Now, speaking at conferences, a lot of conferences these days have gone to what we call in the public relations industry as pay to play. You have to pay to be able to be on a panel, but there are some industry ones that are not pay to play. So I encourage you to work with someone to get you in those doors. A lot of associations have conferences that are based on selections after you put in a proposal for a panel or proposal to speak on a panel. So that's what you need to do to be able to get into those entrees. And that gives you so much credibility. Abed mentioned too about building your credibility and your, we call it your street cred. You build your street cred by speaking at conferences on different topics that are not just what's going on now, but forecasting what's going to happen in the market. That's what really is going to get you head and shoulders in this very noisy industry, in this very noisy time. It's going to make your dog look better in the show. Everyone has a dog in the show, but you want your dog to be prettier than any other dog. So the way to do that is to show your expertise in this particular area and to talk about things that everyone isn't talking about. And you show that in your post on trends, but even forecast how that trend could affect the industry. Take it a little bit further, showing that you know and you understand how things now are going to affect the future. That builds your credibility. Were there any questions right now?
I would love to see if anybody has a question. If not, I would like to ask a question.
Certainly.
But let's see if anybody use your chat feature, because you get priority in the audience. Charlene, one of the things that I realized, and I've been a strong proponent of LinkedIn and marketing and building the brand. Some people, although this sounds nice, but they're hesitant, right? Yeah. And I have clients that come back and they're just hesitant to do it. I don't know what to show or how I can give evidence except my own example of how building the brand through social media, through writing byline articles and speaking at conferences has helped me. But I would love to see, how can we help someone? Well, you know what? Let's get a question from Mickey, then I'll go back to you. Thoughts on finding a customer to speak with you to increase the chances of being selected by associations to speak? This is a question from Mickey.
Definitely. If you have a user, as we call them, someone who's using your product, someone who has benefited from your expertise, that definitely having them included on a panel will help uh, give you credibility. I won't say sell, but it would help people to understand that your product works and it works for the industry, and it's helped someone gain either a better financial bottom line, or it's giving them more credibility in the market. So definitely, Mickey, having someone as a customer to speak on a panel with you is always good. And developing those panels is something that you can usually get someone to help you with. That's something that I have expertise, or I've been able to get people on panels because you know how to develop those panels. It's not only the expertise of that person, but it is a user, and it is someone who has a third party understanding as to how it all fits together. So developing those panels is important, and that's a very key thing, is to have a user on that panel, Mickey.
Excellent. How about podcasts? Because one of the things that we see more now, the likelihood of on a podcast may have a higher probability than speaking at an industry panel. What are your thoughts about that? Again, leveraging video marketing and all the points in which we're talking about. What are your thoughts? And that could be anyone to kind of chime in on that.
Yeah, this is all intertwined, how you're able to use your expertise and your knowledge in building your thought leadership pedigree with video. Podcasts are definitely a wonderful way of getting your information out there. You don't have to write anything, but you are the expert. Once again, you're able to speak about what you know, but keep in mind, you still need to have talking points, the things that you want to achieve in that podcast, because you're going to get questions from the host. You can usually get those ahead of time and be able to prepare for the podcast, but you also want to make sure that you are weaving in your message in that podcast. And that's something to keep in mind that's going to help you with branding. And it's something that people don't always think about when they're looking at answering a question, how they can weave in, without sounding like a commercial of their company, how you can weave in your expertise. Because if you do it artfully, people will say, you know a lot about this, let me reach out to them. But there's a way of doing it.
Excellent. Now, this has been a great summary. Appreciate that, Charlene. Before we kind of go into the breakout rooms, I want to ask the audience if they have any questions and that can be directed to Charlene or Abby or Paul before we go into our breakout rooms. Anybody have a question based on a lot of information? And certainly do appreciate your generous use of time as well as sharing information. Anybody have any questions? This is not a group that's shy. Any question at all? Okay, for Charlene, my market inside specialist area is in money. The inbound CBDC, I'm currently developing a CBDC gold wholesale currency. That's a central bank direct currency, I think, Roy. You can spell that out. Roy's from the UK. So I guess the question that you may have is, Roy, how do you build a brand around this? Is that your question?
If that is your yes. Okay. If that is your question, writing a LinkedIn blog about what this is and why it's important, because we're an industry, the financial industry is like any other industry, is full of acronyms. People want to know BPOs have many different meanings depending on who you're talking about or who you're talking to. So understanding what those acronyms mean and why that's important to the industry, you are explaining that. You can do that in a LinkedIn blog or a LinkedIn article that shows your expertise on it, that builds your credibility on it. Getting in touch with the trade publications that cover those particular topics too would also be something that somebody helping you with thought leadership building would do.
Yeah, I was going to echo what Charlene was saying. Like, building the LinkedIn blog and articles is an effective way of doing it, to be specialized in your industry. And you see it, to your Charlene's point, there's so many dragons in the financial industry and people get confused, right? And I think that's where it is that you can bring your value proposition, your differentiation, and your expertise to the community. And don't ignore LinkedIn. It's a powerful platform to use.
Yeah. And we don't want to poll on that, but I can tell you it has been a powerful tool for me. I ended up speaking at being a keynote speaker for SAP in Brazil. They found me on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And that was the highlight of my career up to that point. Up to that point. Great. So here's another question. I was recently reminded that some people are visual, video, others read, and some skim. What are your thoughts? What do you recommend to ensure your message is heard by all? I know I have been at a point to add CC to videos, and at times I provide a transcript that is separate. That's an excellent comment, Laura. So anyone can comment on that.
I'm going to hop in on when it comes to, and I bet you can talk to the video, but when it comes to skimming and others who are reading things, I find that lists really get their attention. So if you have the top 5 things that are going to make you understand a little bit more about crypto, or the top 3 areas of payments that are hot for 2025, those things are going to galvanize people to that particular article, and they'll go through and they'll look at those points, and that's pretty much what you want to do. So using lists have been successful for the people that I've worked with.
Right.
Excellent.
One thought on that was, in the earlier days, it was difficult to index videos, but nowadays, because of the way the AI technology has improved, it has become a lot easier. A lot of our videos are getting indexed. They become searchable. So, and like Charlene mentioned, it is very important that when you create a video and post it on YouTube or LinkedIn, especially on YouTube, having the right thumbnail with very catchy things like the top 5 or best 5 or what have you, and putting in the right keywords and tags in there, that will go a long way.
Yeah, I was going to say content is the king, which I mentioned that like a key tags. And you know what? If you have those in there, it will pick it up. To your point, Abby and Charlene, is all about your being found on the web, right? So, and they say, oh, you did an interesting article or content, and then here we go. And the stories start growing, right?
Right. And you're on mute, Wayne. But there's one more quick question in here about LinkedIn becoming saturated.
Yeah, I saw that. So I don't know if you guys want to jump.
Yeah.
I can give you my opinion. I'll give it at the end because I might become controversial. So,
so so how can we respond to Mickey's question? I think it's a great question, right?
It is. It is becoming saturated. But it's not going to go away. Saturation sometimes has a negative connotation, but in this regard, I don't think that it does. And Paul, I'm not sure, or Abby, what you guys, or even Wayne, what you might think about this, but use it to your benefit. If it's saturated, that means there's a lot of people there. That means you need to be able to stand out. Okay, you stand out by being, I won't say salacious, but I will say salacious. That could be a video. That could be a controversial or different idea about what's going on in a particular industry, or forecasting. You're looking at what the trend is, but you might also say, how will this affect us in 5 years? People do stay away from certain topics on professional platforms, and that's wise. But putting that information out there also gets you the attention. Makes your dog a little bit prettier than the other ones.
Yeah. And just as a side point, that that this event is marketed specifically and explicitly on LinkedIn. So you are here today as a result of LinkedIn.
Yeah, I have the same opinion. I mean, just to Charlene's point, just use it. I understand. I love this thing on the chat. It's the humble brag post hashtag, which is all about creating that opportunity. But you know what? It's there. So might as well to use it, to your point. And there's not only on LinkedIn, there's other platform you can use, which you can promote, and we can talk about that. So
right. One additional point which I would like to add is, look, at end of the day, if there's a lot of information out there, how interesting is your post to your potential customer, right? So if you put yourself in the feet of your customer, and if you proactively, or your post proactively addresses something that he or she is looking for or is potentially interested in, then most likely your post is the one that is going to get the most visibility. And then obviously the LinkedIn algorithms work in that way, because the more people watch it, the more people comment on it and engage with it, it is going to get promoted.
Yeah, excellent. Excellent. Well, we're glad that everybody was able to be here. I know that some of you have to leave. We appreciate you being here. But Jonathan, why don't you open up the breakout rooms and we'll have an opportunity for some one-on-one discussion. Stay as long as you can. And we look forward to continuing the conversation and getting to know you.